In the range selection videos, we looked at this image here on the left-hand side, which is an integration of nearly 3 hours worth of data on the Eastern Veil Nebula in Cygnus, and what we need to do to process it to get to this final output here. We looked at this image and we thought there's a few things wrong with it. We noticed this black banding around the side due to alignment errors. We can see that the background is very coloured and noisy, and a challenge to separate that from the nebula. We also focused on a little bit on the stars. Here we can see there's just, in my view, there's just too many stars. They sort of get in the way of the nebula. What stars there are, so there's too many. We can see that they're not particularly star-shaped. They're sort of bloated, egg-shaped. They're oversaturated, and there's lots of colour fringing. So what we did in the last video is we ran the StarNet tool over here, process to extract these stars, and we threw them away. And the aim, of course, is to get something like this. So we then processed that background image to make it as best as we could, ready for adding the stars back in. Now the thing is, for this video, what we're going to do is work on a different set of stars to give us our best shot at getting something nice. Now one way to de-emphasize stars is to have a better star image. So what I did, I took this 3-hour image here, and if you look at my files, I split the registered files into two. There's my work area. I had a stack of nearly 3 hours worth of data for the starless image, and then I ran the subframe selector and the blink processors to pick my best stars. So out of all those 1017, I found 31 here that were pretty good, I thought. So the total integration for this comes to just over 5 minutes. And now it might not sound a lot, but it's plenty for all the stars that we need. So let's go back from there. So I took those star fits files and I integrated them into this file here. I'll put them side by side so we can see what's what. So in short, these two images here, this one for the nebula in the background and this one for the stars, were all combined, processed and combined to produce this final image. So the purpose of this video is to focus on this middle image here and how to extract the stars to give us something that we can work with in the final image. So let's tidy up the desktop. We don't need this one, so let's just save that for now up here. Now the important thing to note is because we're going to be combining these stars with this background, that these two images need to be aligned. And you can tell that by if I just put one over the other. It helps if I get it to the same scale. Let's do that first. And you'll notice that they'll line up exactly. And the reason why is because when I star aligned all these images, I made sure that I star aligned both these stars and these stars in the same batch, so I know that they match up exactly. Now that's important because when we're combining these stars back to the starless image, they have to be aligned, otherwise it just wouldn't work. So we can close this one down, and now we'll start to look at what we need to do to pick out the stars from this. Right, I'm not going to worry about cropping this because we can do that later. So the first thing I want to do is, notice this is a linear image. I want to split the stars off from the background, and I use that using the StarNet to process. It's linear, so I need to set that to that. I'll get that running. Now this might take a while, so I'll just stop the video and come back when it's done. Okay, StarNet 2 is finished, so we can close that down. And what we're left with are two linear images. One's the background, which we can discard because we're going to use the bigger integration for that, so that can completely go. We don't need to save that. Go. Now this is a linear image. We need to make it better because it's not permanently stretched. So the way I'm going to stretch it is I'm going to turn off all stretching first. Then rather than go straight into histogram transformation, I'm going to use the arcsine H stretch because that brings out the colors better. So we'll open this up, click on the preview. Now if you start to drag this top slider very slightly across to the right, you can see that more and more stars start to appear. How many you want is entirely up to you. For example, to me, that's probably too many. I like to have a the stars that match the background. In this case, because the nebula is the star of the show, you don't want too many stars showing. So something like that would be quite nice to work with. So we'll just apply that. And there's that ArcSine stretched image. So now I want to take this ArcSine H stretched image and stretch it a bit further using the histogram transformation process. So let's set preview, click on that, and then start to drag that middle slider across to the left until you see the number of stars on the left hand side that you want. I'm thinking that's probably about right. That'll suit me. You could have more or less, depends on what the image is. So let's apply that, close this down in the preview, and there's our fully histogram stretched image. Now at this point we can zoom in and start to see what the stars look like. Yep, they look pretty nice and round, certainly not bad. I suppose the issues is that we've got some brighter stars like these here, which are slightly oversaturated. I'm not going to worry too much about that. But there's got this blue fringing which we can try and work down. So at this point I'll sort of make this image a bit bigger so we can see what's going on. There's probably a good half a dozen stars, if not more, that's like that. So what we're going to do now is apply the range mask to pick out these stars, so that then we can, as before, we can separate out these stars from the rest of the image, so we can start to work on trying to minimize this blue background. Now let's open the range selection process, set to preview, drag this slider across until we see just a few stars. Something like that, say. Apply that. So we've now got a range mask with very small stars. However, these stars aren't big enough to cover the star and the blue fringing, so we need to make each of these stars bigger and blur them slightly so we get a soft effect at the edge. So to make them bigger, we do the morphological transformation process. Set it to dilation. Now this bit's a bit hit and miss, but we'll see if we're lucky first time round. We'll go for, say, 11 of these. Apply that to this. That should make these stars bigger. That's good. Let's try it once more. Make them bigger still. Okay, that's fine. We'll close that down. Now we need to blur these edges a little so we get a nice effect when we come to do the curves transformation on the masked image. So let's open up the convolution to blur. You click your preview one and drag this. I usually drag this second slider along a little until the edges start to blur. Something like that. That's fine. Apply that. Okay. The next thing we need to do is apply this range mask to this image here. Everything in red is protected. Everything black is now open to change. Let's set a preview around this bright star here so we can see what's going on. Let's do a curve. We can minimize that, by the way. Don't delete it because we'll lose it from here if we do. So just minimize it for now. So let's open the curves transformation tool. Open up a preview and we can see that star is very blue. Go onto the saturation and drop the saturation down until that blue gets less. Or there we go. That's worked out quite well. Yep, close down that preview. Go to the star mask and we now need to apply the same to this. Okay, we can close that down. Let's remove the star mask. And as we can see, we've got some stars, colors, but the bright stars have lost their blue. So that's a nice result. So we can delete that preview. And let's have a bit of a look round. Yeah, it's looking much better. Okay. And the final thing to do now is to open up our previously saved starless image, which is this one here. Let's make that a little bit bigger. And then combine these two to get your final output. So we add this to this using Pixel Math. We open up the expressions editor and we take this one here, which is called starless, that one, and we add to that, so add the plus and the star mask there, parse that, there's no errors, that's good, and then the final stage is simply to apply this pixel math expression onto the starless image. Close that down. You can either delete that or save that, just pop it to one side, and there's your starless image. So just to go back, what we did was, let's find the integration. Just let me get it in the same format so we're comparing like for like. Right, so yeah, we basically converted this image into this one.